This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 7th, 2025 meeting of the Easthampton Board of Public Works. I'll make a motion to open this evening's meeting.
I second.
Thomas Millsbury?
Yes.
Leah Strode?
Yes.
Both in favor, motion carries.
One item I'd like to address and inform the public. The board was unfortunately informed that our fellow member Steve Litwin passed away since our last meeting. I just wanted to mention that there will be a service this Friday, the 9th, at Mitchell Funeral Home on Park Street in Easthampton, followed by services on May 10th. So I just wanted to, send our condolences to his family and thank him for his years on the board with us. Item number 1 on the agenda is public speak. If anybody is joining us this evening that would like to speak on any non-agenda item, now would be your time. All right, no one is speaking. Item number 2, Mayor is not expected to join us this evening. All right, item number 3, approval of the April 16th, 2025 meeting minutes.
I was able to review.
Yep, we just both reviewed and I had no issues.
No, me neither.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the April 16th meeting minutes as prepared.
Thank you. I second.
Thomas Millsbury?
Yes.
Leah Strode?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, item number 4, we have a presentation on the Main Street TIP project. Is that correct?
I'll kind of let Paul take it. We do have plans here that are right about 25% that will be sent into Mass DOT for further review once we go over them with the board tonight. So with that, we've got a paper copy over here on the table, and I don't know what's easier to see or Paul, if you want to talk through one and then go to the other. However.
Yeah, I was hoping to just overview the project and then zoom into the critical parts, just to highlight some of the things that have continued since the last time we met, and things that we've made tweaks of since then. So overall, our project, so last time we met, I believe it was in October, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, before the public meeting, or the review meeting.
So we had a very similar concept to what you see here. Since that October meeting, we've made a couple tweaks, modifications based on feedback that we received when we submitted this plan set to Mass DOT. They call it an over-the-shoulder review, where they throw their initial thoughts and their concerns or things that they would want us to modify as part of the review process. So basically, we sat down in front of, especially with the Zoom meeting that we had, where we received feedback and comments on certain things, and we adjusted our plans accordingly to accommodate some of the things that they would want to see. Instead, given that this is a TIP-funded project, we needed to make some tweaks. So the first area that I'll start is from the north side. One of the comments that we received on the Northampton Street section, well, they asked us to extend it all the way to the bridge to ultimately meet the future DOT project that's going to be on the north side of the bridge. And we tried to include as part of this plan set. However, given that we're going to have to need more survey, we did get some survey that was outdated from the bridge project from, I believe that was 2012-ish.
Design would have been, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the procedures that we have to go through with Mass DOT for the checklist and signing off with our surveyor saying that they agree with the information, they just didn't have enough time for us to check everything. So there's going to be a tweak later on after we submit the 25% that's going to include that small segment to the bridge limits. I think it's a couple 100 feet that it's missing from that section.
And it's mostly for bike and pedestrian accommodations to kind of meet up with the TOT project.
Correct, yes. So, so since we're on the north side, let's start on the north side and I'll just kind of some of the major features that we have. Oops. All right, so what are the common So one of the common features we incorporated into this design is a deflection yield movement, similar to what you would have at a roundabout, where you come in through an approach. Vehicles that are coming in towards the park, towards Pulaski Park, so the three sides and three corners, are going to have a slight vehicular movement deflection that's going to further assist with vehicle speeds being regulated by geometrical features. So the introduction of this type of movement will ultimately have the traffic around the park acting like a roundabout. It's not a roundabout, it's a rotary which has similar yield regulation for traffic that's coming in. So as you can see, you're coming around Pleasant Street, you're shifting a little bit over to the right. You do have a pedestrian crossing that is crossing from one side of Pleasant Street to the other side of Pleasant Street. That crossing will accommodate a shared use path that is on the bottom side of the image here, so on the east side of the project of Maine, and as well as it ties in. So then ultimately, you cross the street and then you head towards Lyman Ave. So let me just make sure I got the right thing here. Perfect. So as you get to Lyman Ave, you'll see the use my hands here. One of the things that we have is we still have parking. The earlier concept we had parking, and what we did was we tried to better locate the parking with key features that include pedestrian crossings to make it safe, so people don't get covered up by vehicular movements that are, parking and as well as other features that are going on. So a few of the things, we had a crosswalk here, we have a crosswalk here, we have another crosswalk here over at the big bank side here. And what we tried to do was make the park more accessible. The earlier concept, if you might remember, we had crosswalks.
Three-way wise.
Yes, and one of the challenges that we had with having the crosswalk at the corners was that it would really not operate like a roundabout, and it also would create yield conditions that would be confusing. So instead, we just put them mid-span of the park to allow crossings to happen.
It also helps with the visibility of pedestrians.
Yeah,
So
they're not
if
on
you're
the
not coming
apex.
around a bend,
Yeah.
like you're not gonna see, if you're coming around a bend, it's a lot harder to see a pedestrian
Yeah.
right there.
Are any of the crosswalks RFPs because they're not controlled by other signage, or
They will be RFPs.
Okay.
That's the intention, is to have
That's
them
what-
all
All
as
of them?
RFPs. Yes,
all the ones that are in mid-block?
all the ones that are isolated in this manner.
Understood, okay.
They're not a signal, and it's not gonna be RFP, so. Excuse me, signal is not RFP since it's already controlled.
Yeah, it's not a controlled intersection.
Yeah, we wanna really transform the area to be pedestrian friendly, as well as bring the driver's eye and hey, someone's across here. That was one of the biggest concerns people had, was trying to get to the park.
Mhm.
If we can make the crosswalks shorter, make them more visible, it's a huge
And
accomplishment.
reduce speeds going around
Correct, yeah.
Is that parking on the,
on both sides. Or yes, right there.
Right here,
Yep.
there's parking on both sides of this section.
how are you going to do
Well, it's one-way flow, so that's easy. So people can back in and
that?
pull out.
One-way flow now, but I mean, you really think there's enough room for that? Or are you gonna make it smaller?
Let's make one
The,
smaller.
the area within the, I mean, it just seems like,
So we have 11-foot lanes, travel lanes.
Yeah.
And we have an 8-foot parking lane plus 3-foot buffer. So when you open your door, it's not gonna be like Cottage Street, nothing like that. So
Right.
it's gonna be actually,
It's gonna be more like Ferry Street, you know, if you see the parking lot on Ferry Street, there's a little bit of a buffer between where those parked cars are. I think that'll be a better example of what the parking will feel like.
correct, that's a great example, yeah. And that's a similar concept here where this is a travel lane.
And there's only one travel lane too.
Yeah,
As
and
opposed to-
earlier version had double travel lane.
And currently, just if you're
Yeah.
coming down towards Pleasant Street, there's basically 2 travel lanes and we're bringing that down to 1.
okay, all right, yeah, that makes sense. So then that area will be less confusing, like people are really screwed up at the
Yeah,
top
yeah.
right now,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
And there's gonna be
It's
some
a
signage and stuff
funneling of
like that,
everything.
it'll
Yeah,
hopefully
people are
help
so
with
screwed up with that.
Yeah,
It's a
especially if
mess.
you're from out of town, you don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in town and I.
And if, yeah, but you, dealing with out of towners, it's
Yeah.
even harder, yeah.
Yeah.
So my only question on this section, I do like all the changes from what we saw in October and then what you also presented, I think, in November. My only, I'm sure you've worked out all the large truck turning radiuses,
Absolutely.
but is this lower parking space safe? Because I know in the earlier concepts you had a kidney coming up into that area.
Yes,
I know we're trying to maximize
Yes.
and save every
Yeah.
parking space, but is that a
Yes.
valid,
yes, that's
it works, okay.
it works.
And I think that's partially why you have that, that's mountable curbing,
Yeah.
anytime you see that, so.
Yeah.
So
But
that-
what I'm
that-
saying is in the earlier version, the
It's like
the
a-
mountable
like an
curbing.
Yeah, so
came
Yes,
if you're
first.
going around a lot of these roundabouts, you'll see those,
It's what's at the
like-
center of Ferry, it's sort of stamped.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And now on Union Street, sort of.
Yeah.
At those raised crosses.
Kind
Yeah,
of,
that's
it's a
more
little
just a
different,
finish.
Yeah,
that's
it's more
just
of
a
a finish
finish,
setup.
whereas this is a mountable curb, it's gonna be more
Understood.
like what you're seeing in the middle of the Ferry Street one,
Yeah,
roundabout.
so an auto,
Oh,
a normal
okay.
auto stays in the
Or even
asphalt
there's a
paved,
Couple on the edges too.
Right,
but if a truck's back
Just
wheels
this-
have to,
it has to bump up on something.
Yeah, and
so they
it
don't drive in a tree
promotes-
belt or something like that.
You don't want a regular car, you don't necessarily wanna be driving over it, like it's not the
It's not
preferred-
inviting,
It's not inviting to do that, but tractor trailers can.
and fire trucks.
And fire
so-
trucks, they're used to it.
So this was modeled for, I think I mentioned before, WB 67 is
Okay.
the standard vehicle, which is those interstate trailers that you would see with the sleeper cabs and
Yeah.
longer beds. All these hatched areas are there for those truck
Yeah.
movements to be utilized as they're leaving and really pinch down the roadway width for cars so no one gets
Mhm.
too aggressive with speeding.
Yeah, it's not fun to cross there right now from the park
Yeah.
in front of D&D.
And one of the easiest ways to slow people down is to narrow the road. That's,
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like you're extending into the current travel lane quite a bit with the apron on, I'm not sure about cardinal directions, but in the upper
on the
right.
Florence.
Yeah.
Florence.
Yeah.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
Okay,
And so this is a one of the more,
It's more than a 90-degree turn
Yeah.
there, so it's,
it's a demanding angle for
large
trucks, yeah. So we have a software that we use in our computer models that's fairly accurate. It's actually what we used over at Ferry Street
Mhm.
when we designed that, so it's a similar tool for vehicles. Also, we modeled it for the fire department standard vehicle because they were a little skeptical about the curb line, and we were able to use their actual fire truck dimensions in the model that we have, with all the turning angles and steering restrictions and things of that sort. So.
Right.
One of the, I think, newer features that wasn't identified in the previous concept was I don't think we had parking on both sides of this
No,
park.
it was 2 travel lanes with a left
Yeah.
and a straight, which I think this is a much better implementation of the space. It also looks like we don't touch the boundaries of the park, so there's none of that concern about
Nope.
the state
Correct.
park land.
Correct.
Come right up to it, but never touch it.
Yeah, we actually kissed the curb right here.
Yeah.
That's right there, but it's
No impacts that we have to
Yeah.
legislate.
Exactly, and yeah, see, the boundaries are expanded,
It's a bigger park.
Oh, really?
park bound, yes.
Yeah,
Is
that
it
light,
bigger?
that
Okay.
light gray inner line is the current park boundaries,
So this line right
Okay.
here,
that sort of straight triangle.
Oh, all right.
so that was recaptured for greens.
And there would be
space.
realigning of, you can see it, of the walkways in there to make them work with where we have the crosswalks.
Yes.
So it will make it logistically, like logically make sense
The
with
parking-
what's there. We're not moving like the gazebo, so we gotta get around trees, gazebos,
Mm.
things like that.
So that's why this alignment looks kind of weird, it's like, why are you doing this? Well, there's a couple trees that we wanted to
Not impact, yeah.
impact, not have to cut through the park.
So it's gonna slow traffic down a bit because of the lane changes and, I mean, it's probably designed to do that, but there's definitely gonna be a choke up there once the Tasty Top thing goes in and we have a massive increase in traffic. There's gonna be a lot more traffic and slow down in that rotary.
So the volumes that we had analyzed as part of our projections included the redevelopment of the Tasty Top.
Yeah, but they're under reporting what it's actually gonna be. They don't, that was part of the tactic.
So, one of the other things that we're really excited about is, right now, if you walk out towards Florence, you'll notice there's some stairs that take you down. We're getting rid of the stairs. We're gonna change some grades. The roadway, believe it or not, initially we were thinking that it's gonna change the elevation of the roadway. It's not really changing that much. If anything, it might go up a little bit in some spots, but what is changing though is we're gonna ultimately create like a ramp that brings us down to a level landing that someone can cross and zigzag their way over towards Lyman Ave on the other side of Northampton Street. So there is one thing that we had to do is actually coordinate with Verizon. There is an existing manhole structure that is in the sidewalk that was actually a critical path for our over the walkway due to the manhole being there, the vault being there. Then we can't make this work without the stairs. And what Verizon told us was they actually have like a 36-inch
There's a riser.
chimney, riser on there that was able to make it happen. So we
It's
were
not
very
a hard top of the vault.
correct.
Perfect.
Yeah, you're not encroaching on the top of that vault structure. We are gonna have like some small retaining walls along this edge here to kind of work with the existing. Might not even be a wall. I don't know if you've noticed, like you drive in Southampton down by the town hall. You have someone, particularly on the west side of the road, you'll notice curb. There's like a 1 foot high curb reveal. It might be something like that here too, rather than a wall. So it might be just a high, tall curb reveal. There's a special, it's like a 21-inch curb that they have that we can utilize in this area to help us.
Does all this stay within the existing right of way, or is there some taking to make the corner work? I know that was a concern in one of the previous when we were
Their
thinking.
corner,
Yeah,
that we don't expect much taking there. I think
Okay,
it's
yeah. I know when we were talking about a major grade change
Yeah.
before, it was, how far back
Yeah.
were we gonna have to go?
we don't expect it to be chasing. So
Good.
that's
I think in general, we don't have, there's some right of way, either takings or easements, but they're slivers
Yeah.
in most
Mhm.
places. Like, I think some of it might be right there just to make the path, like,
Yeah.
little slivers in a couple of locations. Most of it would be temporary easements just for construction purposes.
and frankly in that area, I mean, it's if you look at it, it's underutilized space. It probably has.
Mhm.
It's not like we're taking a building.
A corner of a building or
Yeah.
Or even like a
Spaces.
large piece of a front lawn, like it's like
Yeah.
maybe this much,
Yeah.
just to make it work. Yeah.
So coming around this bend, we did add another crosswalk here. I don't believe that was there before.
No.
Another thing that we did was, as you come down here, you don't have a yield anymore, right? So I think that's gonna minimize those Facebook comments that I see all the time about this COVID. We do have this wide area here, once again, for trucks to be able to make that wide turn and get moving. We are consolidating these two driveways as was previously identified at the bank side here. That's really important for us to be able to control.
Currently, the bank has the drive-through and then like the parking lot as two separate exits, so.
So the one thing we did do here that wasn't here before was we actually introduced a small little island, a little pork chop, to help us provide some, thank you, this is much easier for me. To kind of help us with some of the deflection in this area to make this work. We still have this little funky area here with this parking that would accommodate this side of the main street. So this is gonna be acting like a glorified driveway, meaning that you're gonna come up at a little, like a 6-inch reveal transition
Small
to
parking lot or.
Yeah, it's not gonna be at the same elevation as the roadway.
And that's to not promote any like just cut through, like preferred cut throughs through there if you're not going to
Yeah.
park.
Okay.
One thing we also added is this island that's in front of the crosswalk.
A little shelter.
Little shelter. Some could say it's overkill, but
Yeah,
I
the
think
space.
I think it does a nice little,
Yeah, it's a long crosswalk,
yeah. Well, we're getting down from 80 something
Yeah,
feet
but
down.
it's still one of the long,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're
Is there
very,
a problem with the snow? Like, I remember those extra spots by the bank. Somebody brought up something about plowing. Is that not gonna be an issue now?
Well, you never know with snow, but I mean, we just go in there with the right size piece of equipment to get the snow out. You just learn to remove the snow in the new layout, that's all.
one thing you'll notice, this is actually a great view to show, so these little shaded areas, I got one here, one here, we have one here, and we also have one further south. Those are gonna be our new kind of rain garden slash green infrastructure, low maintenance for the city, non-proprietary type of systems that is gonna require, you know, maybe coming in every year or two to back out any debris that might be accumulated, things of that sort. And one of the things that we were really focused on was making it work with the existing drainage structure layout that's out there right now. So we have redundancy out there in terms of, well, if there's a real high storm event, we're gonna have these shallow infiltration gardens. But if things get overwhelmed, then we can utilize the existing system to convey the stormwater away.
So no flooding,
I'm sorry,
no flooding.
flooding's a relative term,
Sure, sure,
but
Sorry.
you are gonna see water in there, because that's what it does, it's
certainly.
gonna.
And then it infiltrates.
There's gonna be an overflow
Yes.
option, so.
Do you guys plan to plant it, or is it just gonna be one of those?
Oh, it's gonna be
raw-
planted, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
If I could, I don't see anything common, but the idea would be, actually, these types of grasses, short dwarf,
In the garden?
yeah, fountain grasses and other types of evergreen grasses are gonna be, or shrubs are gonna be proposed. Something that's very low maintenance. I did have a picture before, I didn't bring it today, but it is a very low maintenance, something that actually covers up there's debris ever in there, it actually hides it quite well, so. We have.
I have a quick question. Where is the bus stop gonna be?
The bus stop is still in this area right here.
Okay.
This is where it's dedicated. We have it shown as 2 parking spaces as it is, as there's parking now. That's something that we're still going to figure out how we want to look at this area here in front of the bus stop.
Okay, cause a bus stopping right in that travel lane, of course, would just,
Yeah, if it's not
Be
a
tough.
dedicated pullout now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we also have to coordinate with Pioneer Valley as well, PBTA, in terms of their future use of this location, to make sure that this is where they wanna have it under future conditions. And they're gonna get a set of courtesy plans from the state once this is all formalized and reviewed and coordinated. If you just push that.
Yeah.
Actually, I can just go.
I know.
high
We don't have
tech.
that much technology here. Better than we used to be though, a lot better.
I good, or you wanna go a little further?
Perfect, great. Similar idea here, so we have this pedestrian area.
Shop row.
Shop Row, where you have Antonio's, Silver Spoon, and those other buildings. The idea is to provide like and we haven't really laid out the landscaping hardscape yet, but the idea is you can kind of see these little lane here, right? That would be mostly for pedestrian, and outside of that could be used for tables or accommodations for that particular adjacent use that's there. As you approach the Main Street and Union Street intersection, you'll notice there's accommodations for pedestrian crossings. You still see the defined shared use path side on the east side of the roadway. They mix together into the intersection here. We did provide these bump outs here to really help us, not bump outs, but the truck aprons to help us with really narrowing the width and making it accommodating for trucks. Right now, we're optimistic that we can maybe just use one structure. That's something that we're gonna have to work with DOT on, because one of the first comment that I can tell you we're gonna get right now is that we're overloading this arm because they have their standards that says that you can't put more than like 3 heads or whatever. But when we ever worked on projects of this nature and we had these types of structures, and we coordinate with the manufacturers, they always come back and say, yep, you still have a factor of safety if you add additional heads to it. So that's something that we're fairly optimistic about, that we don't have to add any more signal equipment out there to accommodate vehicular and pedestrian movements like in this area. So we haven't really changed our limits. The idea is to touch the existing, or the, I guess now completed project in Union Street. As we go to the further south,
Trying.
I know it's funny, right?
Is that going to be raised between the two directions of traffic
Right there?
on Main Street? Yes, and the one on Main Street.
No, those are painted.
Okay.
We need the real estate for truck movements.
Understood, yeah.
So do you wanna go up to the Park Street intersection?
Yeah, this is actually a great view.
Okay.
If you zoom up, just
Zoom
tap
up.
just
Slide
past,
down,
yeah,
That way.
slide down.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is another area where it really changes the way it looks today. Obviously, you have a yield Y condition as it's out there today. The idea is for us to make this more of into a T, put these green infrastructure, green gardens in this section as well. We are putting a new sidewalk around this edge of the, kind of this bullnose of the park, or the war, yeah,
The War
Veterans
Memorial.
yeah. That does not exist today, so we are gonna add this, so you can actually get to here and then cross this way. We also do have a crossing at Clark Ave, even though it might be closed later on, depending whatever the redevelopment.
Well, there'll probably always be access for the parking lot.
So that's right. And as part of this, we're tapering back into existing width conditions as you go further south on Main Street. On this side, there is a sidewalk, as you can see, it continues all the way towards Restaurant Row, Shop Row. And we are kind of really changing this area to be much safer and much more attractive for pedestrians to cross. And we are introducing, this was here before, I believe, this left turn lane to get to Park Street. It's funny, every time I drive, I get stuck behind some car
Turning left here.
turning left, and it really ticks me off.
Yeah, they don't move over, you can wait there for a few
Yeah,
minutes.
exactly. So in a nutshell, this is our project that we're working to submit to Mass DOT. It should be within the next few days or early next week. We anticipate the submittal. I did talk with the project manager yesterday, or maybe this morning at there was a conference at Mass DOT. One of the things that we are still waiting from them is this the intersection control evaluation. A little too much detail here, but hopefully I don't put you guys to sleep. So DOT makes you go through these evaluation of treatments that you would propose, either a roundabout or a signal or all-way stop. Different control evaluations are reviewed. The roundabout concept was quickly thrown out because it would be very impactful to the area, the park, some of these parcels. So that's been ruled out. The one thing that we haven't received feedback yet is should this be a signal or stop control, and when it operates with a stop sign coming in from park. So that's one thing we haven't officially received feedback yet, but we're assuming it's gonna be a signal based on future needs. So that's the only coin flip that I think we have as this project goes with what you see here.
Oh, one other thing we adjusted, is we added a loading zone
Oh, yes,
right
thank you.
after.
Thank you. So we did move the loading zone to this side, and one of the things that we were looking at, usually when you have these loading zones, the idea is to not be impactful to the adjacent movement. So what a vehicle or a truck can do is actually, let's say they're coming around here, they could actually pull into here and then back in to the space.
And there's a driveway right there that's right next to the shop row, so that helps with their backing in as well.
Yeah, it's not a parking spot to
Exactly.
pinch it.
And they can actually unload their trailer, what do you call that thing?
Lift gate.
Lift gate, thank you. The lift gate can be unloaded in here, and it's gonna work with the
And it's right next to shop row as opposed
Yeah.
to being like a little off
further
kilter.
down.
It's like
Yeah.
at one end, but still. And I think I think it's usually in that general area, I usually see trucks trying to load and unload right in the light area, so it doesn't change their current situation too much.
And frankly, if I'm the truck driver, you know, I think the only problem you're gonna have is, not for the truck driver, but for sometimes they might just be too lazy to back up, they might just take these two spaces and, you know, it's usually what, a 20-minute delay?
And most of their deliveries are in the morning.
Like at
There's
5
not many
a.m. or
people,
something.
Yeah, they time it.
Yeah. So that's the idea, is not to disrupt operations.
Question about Campus Lane.
Yes.
Just trying to read this here, there's a line that kind of shows a lane to the right of the right turn lane. Is that a parking lane?
Yes, so right now,
Cars parked there right now.
Yes, all the time.
and there's really no delineation along Campus Lane.
No.
And we cut our project off kind of close to Main Street on Campus Lane because one of the concerns that we had was if we did start doing more work on this side of Campus Lane, they would ask us to bring this up into different standards that's out there today. So what we wanted to do is kind of match existing conditions as best we could without triggering other issues with adjacent.
Cause it's working right now too.
Sorry,
Like it's working right
It's
now.
working
It's
now,
not like
correct,
it's an
yeah.
unfunctional situation over there.
What is the line that continues from that parking lane up around the right turn? Like, what does that indicate?
Curbing, right?
Which one, this one right here?
Yes, that line.
Oh, so that's just a shoulder line, just to
Okay.
to tell people. This is
or like a fog line, it would be like
Yeah.
that white line right here.
Right, okay, okay.
It's wide though, is that a sidewalk?
No, it's just painted, right?
Yeah, just paint.
Just-
Because it's
just to narrow the
transitioning from
vehicles.
where we have a parking space, which is 8 feet
Okay.
wide, to like a shoulder width, which is usually like 2 feet off the curb,
Yeah.
So it's
just making it.
it's a 2-lane crossing there, pen crossing, but they are in the road for 3 lanes. Just behind that, what did you call it, a fog line?
A fog,
Yeah,
we call
behind
it a
that fog line.
I'm sorry, what do you mean
It's,
3 lanes?
it's a longer walk.
It's a longer
walk,
cross.
But there's
it's
only
a-
2
But
active
there's
travel
yeah,
lanes.
exactly, precisely.
There's just wide shoulders before you
Yeah.
hit the travel lane.
And I think there's minimal, like, it's not like traffic's going really fast there, so I don't think it's gonna be too much of an issue. I haven't had an issue there in the past,
What's,
and I don't think it's gonna be much different.
now looking at this, I see the stop line before the crosswalk. Is there just then gonna be a slow rollout so people can see around?
Yes.
And it will continue to be right turn only, which it is right now.
I assure you there will be 40 comments
Well, I'm just saying, is
from
there
DOT.
any, with the stop line that far back from the travel lane and making the right into, is there any justification or method for another stop line beyond the crosswalk before you make the hard right or left? You know, sort of at the shoulder of the north-south travel lane, or the north travel lane,
I
should say.
think we're in one of these.
Or is that a standard practice to have that rollout apron kind of to the travel lane?
I've seen many different treatments for areas like this. The most important thing is for us to stop before the pedestrian
Understood, yeah.
crossing, and I think with us having this, so there's a few different things that could happen under future conditions, so this is a way for me to
Mhm.
explain what I expect to get comments from DOT. They might ask us to remove these fog lines here or these shoulders, even though we put them in here. We kind of have this unique situation where we're trying to tie in all these existing conditions and needs of
Yeah.
butters and everyone else. And we are really changing the layout of this area quite a bit, so what we're trying to do is provide as much guidance with
Mhm.
markings as we could. So they might ask us to remove this, not have anything at all, or they might say keep it and add a stop bar. I could see that potentially happening. However, they're gonna start asking about other things, like, do we really wanna have this opening here and provide parking, so they didn't kill it when we had our over the shoulder
Yeah,
review.
no, it was more just
Yeah,
it's a deep throat there to Campus Lane, you know, with the structures all getting brought to the
Without
left.
creeping out, you're not gonna be able to really see, especially to the left, is
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, that was my question, if that's a normal situation for this type of condition.
this is unique.
Yeah,
So there's
It's
a
an
lot of,
atypical decision.
Yeah, it's weird, that
Same with
spot.
the right turn into Campus Lane, you know, that crosswalk almost falls into the uncontrolled category because
It almost does, cause it's got, you've got a full diagonal parking stall and some extra space.
yeah, it's
Cause you're
almost like a
really only
20
worried
foot.
about the traffic coming to the left, if you're legally entering this intersection.
No, at the other, you know, that I was just saying that this is a long,
yeah,
this is almost like a mid-block crossing,
Yes.
you know. Should there be some other control in RFP or something? It's almost like an uncontrolled, you know.
yeah.
We'll see, I mean, it all works on the layout
Yeah.
and the sight lines of what the rain garden is and that.
We expect that those.
Like I said, this is also what the 25% is.
Yeah,
So, you know, it'll all get hashed out. It's just sort of a, you know, once we started to focus on Campus Lane, I noticed that a little more. But yeah, I think this is a dramatic improvement from the 10% that we saw in October.
One more question about the crossing from the bank to Pulaski Park and then.
Are you talking about Easthampton Savings Bank?
Yes, Easthampton, not Florence Bank, Easthampton Savings Bank. Yeah, right there. There, I understand why that arc doesn't connect the crossings, cause it looks like there's a big oak tree right there, and of course we wanna hold on to that guy. I'm curious about, when people enter and exit the park using those crossings. They're probably just gonna walk directly between them. So I'm curious about like,
Well,
you know,
I'm sorry, in terms of where
You're talking
exactly?
across the park, right?
yes, across the park, so if you were to enter from one side of the park and exit the other side of the park.
Yeah.
You know, they would basically be cutting across grass.
You mean doing this?
We'll probably, yeah,
Right
do
there,
this,
right
right
there,
here.
yes.
Oh, that, right, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, we can add more, I mean, we can add another.
To a degree, yeah, like you said, if we wanna try to protect a tree, I don't know exactly where the tree is.
It's, I think it's this
Oh,
one,
it's that
I think
one,
that's
okay.
why it's not going
Okay,
like that,
okay,
which makes
cool.
sense,
No,
and I'm
yeah,
fine with
no, that's
that, but, yeah, you know, that arc, it makes sense to cross there, but you can't. So I wonder if there, is it possible without triggering some sort of issue with, I mean, can we just add something? I mean, I don't know.
Or
You mean
adjust.
like a path,
Adjust.
a path, you mean?
A path, yes.
Yeah, I think we can do something, I can talk with our landscape architect to see if he has any
Thoughts?
thoughts on not being, impacting the service.
Kind of the college campus
Exactly.
version of,
Well, it's
See
just
where the
any
paths go,
landscape
yeah.
architect, they always say, let people walk, and then you
And-
figure out where to put the path from that, yeah,
People are gonna walk like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You have a question over here?
Yeah, I do, and, you know, I know public speak was before, but,
well, no, anything
You
on,
can't.
on this.
oh, okay.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
we get to the topic
Yeah.
and we've
It's more that
discussed
is, that
we'll
isn't
normally
related to
open it
Main
up.
Street.
Okay, thank you. So, this
Yeah.
question may be coming a little late, but I'm just wondering, why did this project come up? I mean, have a lot of people been hurt in the Rotary? Like what, like this just seems like, is it really working that horribly right now?
This is always one of the big ones that comes up, this crosswalk right here. Especially there's daycare right here.
Yeah,
Um,
right. And you know, that little area we talked about before, going around the Rotary, which is entirely confusing, but like this is a huge thing for like two problem areas. Like I'm just wondering, was there
Right.
money to burn?
Well, no, I
Did it
think,
have to be done? Is it a climate thing? Like what?
no, I think I mean, Greg can speak to this, but this has been like a 10-year plan to redo Main Street. It's just
Oh.
as an improvement. And now that we finally have the state funding and all that, it has to be brought up to Mass DOT standards, which
Okay.
include these sight lines and parking requirements.
Okay, so
So
this
the-
was a long-term project
Yeah,
that,
and we'll be doing like infrastructure under it. It's just sort of how like the Union Street project took 12 years to do from, you know,
Exact
initial
same,
design.
exact
Yeah.
same process and funding source.
So this is
Wow.
already like
As Union Street.
5+
Well,
years.
I remember
and-
how long even Cottage Street,
Yeah.
that
You
was
know,
a
this
real
isn't a
improvement.
city project where we have money to burn. We've been working for
we had to apply to the
many
state
years
program.
to use state money. And then
Okay,
once state
okay.
money's involved in it, you have to kind of bring everything within the scope of the project up to current standards, so.
Yeah, but no, that makes
Yeah.
sense, yeah,
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 we
okay,
can
I'm
get-
just wondering
Yeah,
if it
No,
was
it's a
a
good question.
safety thing or like,
Well, once
you
it
know.
does, yeah, once it starts, it does start to trigger safety things and, you know, modern use of
well, there's already
sidewalks.
some safety issues,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if those were what was triggering this or,
No, they're-
okay.
They're just
Nope.
getting captured in a larger project.
Okay,
So-
got it,
And we
Thank
hope to
you.
get this in and done before it gets as bad as Union Street got before construction started.
Yeah, before you have
Right.
actual road
right,
failure.
Main
Cottage,
Street
I
is
know
getting-
Cottage was pretty bad,
Yeah, we're trying to get a little
Especially in
bit
this
ahead of the
section.
curve these days.
okay.
But yeah, it's not a vanity project, it's not. It's
Yeah,
a-
okay,
It's a,
okay, it's not a
it's a lot-
climate project, it's not a, it's
no,
just
but
a.
like, but we are now with the rain gardens and.
Well,
and
you
so
have
we-
to take into consideration what to do with the water
Yeah,
and the
but it-
runoff and the, yeah, of course.
It's not just the last year or two that we've seen the plans, there's been 5+ years of applications for funding, and getting
Okay,
in
wow.
line,
Okay,
you know.
and when are you slating to start?
Hope 2028.
Okay,
2028, 2029, depending on how the schedule, because we're, basically the TIP program is a bunch of different communities in this area, and then based on where they're at, what the final numbers end up being for each of the projects, because they only get so much for each fiscal year, they have to kind of move things around, so depending on how that actually,
Yeah, and this is a
Comes out.
pretty big project where, think about what this area gets,
It's a huge project.
and then there's 2 traffic lights, so those right there, it
And that's why I
possibly
was
determines-
asking, because it's so involved, it's so.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, I guess Cherry Street didn't seem to take as long as this, but I don't know for sure.
was-
It was a different,
Completely
completely different
different.
funding source, like the whole DOT process is a
Oh,
very, like.
Yeah, this
Okay,
is
and
a
it's
state fund.
residential, this is right, okay.
Well, no, not even just that, like when you do DOT projects, each of the departments in there, like,
Mm-hmm.
there's
multiple
multiple
reviewers.
reviewers, like
Right, tons of questions.
some green infrastructure, some ADA, some,
Mhm.
you know,
Complete streets.
complete streets, there's all these different entities that are looking at it from a
Yeah,
different perspective, so it
okay.
takes a while to get everyone on the same page.
Right,
Yeah, the
And there's
Cher-
multiple reviews and all that, so.
the Cherry Street project was mostly done through a completely different mechanism of climate and
Specifically climate itself,
Yeah.
so.
it's not working very well. And people still speed.
Alright, so I guess any further questions from the board?
No, not at this time. Thank you so much for the
Any
presentation.
additional questions from the public? Yes.
I remember like that daycare,
Mm-hmm.
and then have there been enough parking spaces? I know, like, has that been an issue? Like, I do see parents that are crossing the
We
street.
did, it's a hard,
from the bank.
it was a hard balance, cause it's a hard place to put parking spaces
It is.
safely. Part of why we wanted to kind of make this work here too is we're adding a bunch of spots here.
Okay.
So we're hoping maybe we can get some parking like either here or here,
Okay.
so they can cross a lot more safely, cause at least now they're not gonna have that 80-foot crosswalk to cross with a kid that's about as high as
Yeah.
your bumper, like, so we're doing what we can, but like this is just a very difficult area, especially with this turning movement right here to add.
There's a lot happening.
Yeah, so it's just,
Yep.
and you wanna safely park those cars too, you know, so.
Okay, and then the other thing I think you mentioned was that, what is it, that Antonio's Shop Row?
We call it Shop Row, yeah.
Okay, and then there's, you alluded to a pedestrian path and,
So
where
this is,
outdoor seating could be, is that?
Yes.
So the pedestrian path is where people are walking on the sidewalk, is that what you mean?
Yeah, where if you think about it from like a little walkway, that we wouldn't expect too many tables for the.
like a clear
restaurant
path
use.
for you to be able to walk,
Yeah.
like you wouldn't put a
Oh, okay.
planter or a
Right.
hydrant or
Yeah, yeah.
or tables or what, you know, like
Okay,
it would be
just
a
be for
clear.
people to
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be delineated by any line or anything, but it would be considered what
Yeah.
would be the
But
clear
they're,
path.
but they're
Okay.
getting more real estate in front of Shop Row
Correct.
by realigning the parking. It's like what they're gaining, maybe 5-6 feet at
Yeah.
least of
And this,
hardscape in front of the.
yeah, and this could be changed, like we could, obviously there could be encroachment.
It's easier to see.
They can put some tables around in these areas here.
Yeah, where it's
and
widened.
Yeah, and this is like 15 feet wide right here, 12 feet wide here.
So we might be able to neck that down a
So
little
they
bit.
can get down to 5, so as long as there's and this is gonna be, I'm not saying this is gonna be a problem later on, but sometimes restaurants get
Creep.
Yeah, they creep, yes.
And you end up with like a 3-foot walkway
Yeah,
or
right.
something. We're trying to avoid that, yeah.
And one of the things that we can do to accommodate a delineation without having markings is changing the materials. So like,
Yeah.
maybe we can do a brick band or work with concrete and asphalt to just kind of say, hey, look,
This is the sidewalk.
yeah, keep this clear.
I take it, Greg, the department's happy with
Yeah.
with what you're seeing?
I think we've done a great job of maintaining the character of downtown and incorporating modern roadway design features without, really altering what downtown's like. We made the park much more accessible.
And we're trying to slow people down, but not stop them necessarily coming through here, just get get the speeds down, keep them moving. But
No, I think the dedicated turn and other things like that should
Yeah.
really
cause it's a downtown environment, it's not, at the other end of Main Street starts to be more of like the connector between, you know, Easthampton and Southampton or whatever, but this section is meant to have people kind of stop and go to the restaurants, go to the shops, and slowing people down kind of promotes that, so.
No further discussion. I'd like to thank everyone.
Thanks, Paul.
Very informative little review. Thank you again.
Does anybody know what the process was for getting that new building approved down there? Cause that's
Which one?
the brand new building that's,
At the corner of Cottage and Adams.
yeah, that building is so ugly and doesn't fit in at
Oh,
all. Who
That went through planning. That was not.
That was not.
That was planning department. They did it a
Yeah, I
couple
don't know
of.
how I missed that one, that's bad,
All right.
shame.
All right.
Thanks,
Done
Paul.
with that,
See ya.
we'll move on to item number 5, director's report.
Union Street, I don't have a lot to update the board with, or the public really, with what's going on Union Street. Did get the raised crossings at High and the rail trail, received their final markings, and we're waiting to hear back from Ludlow on when their landscape contract will be here to finalize the loam and bark mulch areas between the family parking lot near Family Dollar. There's some backfilling of curb they need to do up by the COA and a few other locations, but it's mostly minor landscape work, but we're on them to get here, but they do have till October, so hopefully it'll be done this spring. We did have to put a water use restriction in this week. There is, believe it or not, with all the rain, still a drought, mild drought in place by the State Drought Management Task Force for the Connecticut River Valley. The Drought Management Task Force did meet today. Generally, they release their decisions in 2 or 3 days after they meet, so maybe by the end of the week it could be different, but that is the
We're bound by
current,
by permit.
by our Water Management Act permit for May 1st to September 30th. So, that's one thing. Pomeroy Meadow Road, the bridge, I don't have, they're still working on some title research, waiting to hear back from them so we can get that worked out with Southampton. And Diana and I'll be meeting with MassDOT's contractor from GPI tomorrow at Loudville West and Pomeroy Meadow to discuss the all-way stop conversion for that intersection. So they have gathered some data out there. They haven't reported back to us on with any of that data yet. They're coming to gather some more data tomorrow, so we're looking forward to meeting them out there and kind of getting their initial thoughts on that conversion. That's basically it for
Progress is progress.
It is, yeah.
In the city movement.
We're trying to, we're doing what we can to patch potholes where we can. Just the rain has made that more and more difficult, so.
And accentuated them.
And made them worse, yeah. It's a losing battle when we can't get some dry days in May, so.
Yeah, no, it should clear out.
And you will see some good progress get started on the rail trail project next week. So the majority of that work will be happening between South Street and the back of Eastworks, basically.
And street sweeping continues, I'm sure it was
Yeah,
impacted by the weather. but-
everything's ongoing, yeah.
Where are you making changes to the rail trail?
No real changes, just repairs and hazard tree removals.
We're still in a drought.
Yeah, it's not up to
You
us,
won?
it's up to the state and the Drought Management Task Force, so, like I said, they met today and they'll issue a determination based on today's
Okay,
meeting. So it was today from 1 to 3, but I wasn't able to attend, I had some other commitments, so.
well, that should probably be posted online.
Yeah, the Drought Management Task Force website updates pretty quickly once they issue a decision, so I would imagine by today's Wednesday, Friday afternoon, but
Okay,
it's
Okay.
not up to
Right.
us, it's up to the
Right.
state. So much of what we do is
we're getting
dictated.
more rain too in the next
Yeah.
couple days, so. Wow.
But they say the droughts take a long time to develop and a long time to resolve, so that's,
Yeah,
It was a very dry fall.
yeah, it was, yeah, and really
Little
winter, I
more
mean, we
housing.
had some
Yeah.
trouble with winter, but. Great, so, tonight.
No further questions or on anything we've hit tonight, I will make a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
Second that motion.
Thomas Salisbury,
Alright.
Leah Strode,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.